9 Golden Age actresses who lost their beauty in shocking and tragic ways. Number 2 will break you. They were Hollywood's definition of perfection. Faces the world believed would never fade. Studios built fortunes on their beauty. Audiences worshipped them. And for a moment, they seemed immortal. But when the cameras stopped rolling, something far worse than aging began. Because in Hollywood, beauty isn't just admired, it's owned. And when it starts to disappear, so does everything else. What happened to these women wasn't just time. It was disease, addiction, mental collapse, and desperation. An industry that promised forever, then abandoned them when forever ended. Today, we reveal the true, heartbreaking stories of 9 Golden Age actresses who lost their beauty in the saddest ways imaginable. And number 2 will completely change how you see Hollywood. Watch until the end. These aren't just fallen stars. They're warnings. Hedy Lamarr. When perfection became a prison. In Hollywood, beauty is power. But for Hedy Lamarr, beauty became a sentence. When she arrived in America in the late 1930s, Hollywood had never seen anything like her. Her face didn't just turn heads, it stopped rooms. Perfect symmetry. Hypnotic eyes. Skin that caught the light as if it had been designed specifically for film. Louis B. Mayer didn't promote her as the most beautiful woman in the world. He declared it as if stating a natural law. On screen, Hedy wasn't acting. She was displayed. The camera lingered. Audiences stared. Co-stars vanished beside her. Beauty like hers didn't feel human. It felt eternal. But what the audience never saw was that Hedy Lamarr was never just a face. Behind closed doors, when the lights went out and the makeup was washed away, she transformed. Not into another woman, but into her real self. A thinker. A builder. A problem solver. While Hollywood praised her silence, she filled notebooks with equations. While studios obsessed over her cheekbones, she obsessed over frequency patterns. During World War II, while the world burned, Hedy co-invented a frequency-hopping communication system to prevent enemy interference, technology so advanced it would later become the foundation of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS. But Hollywood didn't want a genius. Hollywood wanted a goddess. So she hid her mind. Because intelligence, she was told, would ruin the illusion. Years passed. The industry moved on. Youth replaced perfection. Studios stopped calling. The same men who once worshipped her face now pretended not to see her at all. For the first time, Hedy faced a terrifying truth. Without beauty, she no longer existed in Hollywood. The rejection cut deeper because she had no second identity to fall back on, not publicly. Her brilliance had been erased before it could save her. Desperate to reclaim what had defined her worth, she turned to plastic surgery. But this was the 1960s. A brutal era of experimental procedures, crude techniques, and false promises. Each operation took a little more away. Her features stretched. Her skin tightened unnaturally. The face once measured against the golden ratio began to collapse under its own preservation. And then, she crossed the final line. Convinced she could fix herself better than doctors ever could, Hedy began experimenting alone. Injecting substances. Applying homemade treatments. Attempting corrections in isolation. Genius without restraint became self-destruction. By the 1970s, the most beautiful woman in the world had vanished, not just from the screen, but from society. She lived alone in a small apartment, refusing mirrors, refusing photographs, refusing visitors. She spoke to the world only through a telephone, unseen, unheard, untouched. When recognition for her inventions finally arrived decades later, it was too late. The world celebrated her mind, but she could no longer bear to be seen. Hedy Lamarr died at 85, remembered by the public as a beauty, and by history as a genius who was never allowed to be both. Her tragedy wasn't aging. It wasn't vanity. It was this. She was valued only for the one thing that time would inevitably take away. And when it did, Hollywood left her with nothing to stand on. Message: when a woman's worth is reduced to her appearance, even perfection becomes a trap. Hedy Lamarr didn't lose her beauty to time. She lost herself to a world that refused to see anything else. Rita Hayworth, when beauty lost its mind. For an entire generation, Rita Hayworth wasn't just beautiful. She was desire itself. In the 1940s, Hollywood didn't need to explain her power. One toss of her auburn hair in Gilda did all the talking. That single moment turned her into a global fantasy. Soldiers taped her image inside lockers, submarines, barracks. Her face was painted on the side of an atomic bomb. Rita Hayworth didn't belong to herself anymore. She belonged to the world. But what made Rita extraordinary wasn't just sex appeal. It was vulnerability. Behind the glamour lived a softness, a fragile emotional openness that made audiences feel they weren't just watching her, they were protecting her. On screen, she glowed. Off screen, something was quietly slipping away. At first, it was small. A forgotten line. A moment of confusion. A pause that lasted just a second too long. Rita blamed stress. Directors blamed exhaustion. Gossip columnists blamed alcohol. Because in Hollywood, a woman's confusion is always assumed to be her fault. By the late 1950s, the pauses grew longer. On set, Rita would freeze mid-scene, eyes wide, fear flickering across the face that once commanded every camera. Crew members whispered. Directors rewrote scenes around her. The woman who once carried films now needed to be guided through them. What no one knew, what no one understood, was that Rita Hayworth was already losing her mind. Alzheimer's disease was barely recognized at the time. There was no language for what was happening to her. No diagnosis. No compassion. Just judgment. As the disease advanced, it began to erase not only her memory, but her beauty itself. Her expressions flattened. Her movements became hesitant. The spark in her eyes, the thing audiences loved most, slowly dimmed, replaced by confusion and fear. Public appearances became humiliations. Photographers captured her disoriented, vacant, bloated from medication and stress. Headlines mocked her. Fans asked cruelly, "What happened to Rita?" What happened to Rita was a disease eating her alive. At home, the terror was worse. In rare moments of clarity, Rita knew something was wrong. She would call her daughter over and over, asking the same questions, her voice shaking with panic. She felt herself disappearing and couldn't stop it. As the illness progressed, basic self-care vanished. Grooming became impossible. Weight fluctuated wildly. Her face aged not by years, but by loss. Loss of memory, of control, of identity. One day, during a brief lucid moment, Rita looked at an old publicity photo. A perfect face. Radiant eyes. Immortal beauty. She whispered, "Who is that? Who is that beautiful girl?" When told it was her, she shook her head in disbelief. That moment, more than any photograph, captures the true horror of Rita Hayworth's story. Not that she aged. Not that she lost beauty. But that she lost herself while still alive. In the 1980s, Rita was finally diagnosed with Alzheimer's. By then, it was far too late. She required full-time care. She no longer recognized friends. Sometimes not even her own family. The woman who once embodied glamour, desire, and emotional depth had become a silent figure, her face empty, her eyes no longer reflecting a soul the world could reach. When Rita Hayworth died in 1987 at just 68 years old, she had already been gone for years. Her tragedy wasn't vanity. It wasn't addiction. It wasn't time. It was a disease that erased beauty by erasing the mind that animated it. Rita Hayworth didn't lose her beauty to Hollywood. She lost it to a world that mistook illness for weakness, and watched as a woman vanished one memory at a time. Veronica Lake. When the signature feature vanished. Veronica Lake didn't need an introduction. All she needed was her hair. Long, platinum waves falling over one eye. The peekaboo look that turned her into a mystery before she ever spoke a word. It wasn't just a hairstyle. It was a phenomenon. Women copied it across America. Magazines printed tutorials. Factories noticed, because women working machines were risking their lives trying to look like her. At barely 5 feet tall, Veronica Lake was small, delicate, almost fragile. But on screen, she was untouchable. Distant. Dangerous. Paired with Alan Ladd, She became the perfect film noir fantasy, a woman who revealed nothing even when you thought you had her. Hollywood loved her image. But the image was already killing her. Maintaining that iconic look required brutal upkeep. Tight rollers, heavy chemicals, constant styling. Combined with stress, poor nutrition, and a grinding production schedule, the damage began quietly, strands falling out, thinning patches no one was supposed to see. Then came the war. The US government asked Veronica to cut her hair publicly. Factory workers were imitating her style, and women were getting hurt. She agreed. Cameras flashed as she sacrificed her signature look for the war effort. What the public never knew was that the haircut wasn't just patriotic. It was camouflage. Veronica Lake was already losing her hair. Stress-induced alopecia, malnutrition, exhaustion, the glamour hid it until it couldn't anymore. And once the hair went, something else went with it. Confidence. Hollywood didn't wait to understand. Studios don't investigate decline, they abandon it. Paramount dropped her contract. Roles vanished. And without steady work, Veronica's private struggles exploded into public collapse. Alcohol became anesthetic. Nights blurred. Sleep disappeared. Her once luminous skin puffed and lined. Dark circles deepened beneath eyes that no longer held mystery, only defiance and exhaustion. By her early 30s, she looked older than women twice her age. Marriages failed. Money evaporated. Fame turned into rumor. And then came the moment no star imagines for themselves. Veronica Lake was found working as a barmaid in a New York hotel. Unrecognized. A reporter who discovered her later described the experience as seeing a ghost, not of death, but of beauty itself. When shown photos of her former self, Veronica reportedly said, "That was not me. That was never me." She wasn't being bitter. She was being honest. Because Hollywood had never loved her. It had loved the hair. A brief attempt at a comeback only made things worse. The camera was unforgiving now. Critics were cruel. They wrote about ruins, about decay, about what happens when beauty fails to obey. When Veronica Lake died in 1973 at just 50 years old, many fans refused to believe the bloated, worn woman in her final photographs was the same ethereal star of the 1940s. Her tragedy wasn't alcoholism alone. It wasn't mental illness alone. It was losing the one thing she was allowed to be, and being left with no one to catch her when it disappeared. When an industry reduces a woman to a single feature, it turns that feature into a ticking clock. Veronica Lake didn't fade. She was stripped. Marlene Dietrich, the illusion that refused to age. Marlene Dietrich never relied on beauty alone. She engineered it. From the moment she stepped onto the screen in The Blue Angel, Dietrich understood something most stars never did. Beauty is not just what you have, it's what you control. Lighting, angles, posture, shadow. Every inch of her image was deliberate. Nothing accidental. Nothing left to chance. She didn't let the camera find her. She told it where to look. Her cheekbones became sculpture. Her gaze, a weapon. Her presence felt timeless, not youthful but ageless. While other actresses were shaped by studios, Dietrich shaped herself. For decades it worked. But mastery has a price. As she aged, Dietrich refused to renegotiate the image she had perfected. She didn't want a new version of herself. She wanted the same one, forever. And so the illusion had to be maintained at all costs. At first, it was subtle. Strategic makeup, carefully chosen costumes, controlled lighting. Then came the pain. According to her daughter, Dietrich began taping her face beneath wigs, pulling skin so tight she struggled to close her eyes. Corsets cinched her body into shapes it no longer wanted to hold. Wigs replaced hair. Preparation became ritual. Ritual became obsession. She could still perform, as long as the illusion held. Then, in 1975, it broke. At 73, during a performance in Australia, Dietrich fell and broke her leg. Photographers captured her being carried to an ambulance. No lighting. No angles. No control. Just an elderly woman. Those photographs devastated her more than the injury itself. They showed the world something she had spent her entire life preventing: reality. From that moment on, Marlene Dietrich vanished. She retreated to her Paris apartment, disconnected her phone, refused visitors. For 12 years, she lived in near total isolation. The apartment had no mirrors, no reflection, no confrontation. Those who saw her in her final years described a woman almost unrecognizable. The posture gone, the cheekbones softened, the legendary image dissolved into fragility. And yet, the public never saw this version. Dietrich chose invisibility over imperfection. When she died in 1992 at 90, the world remembered her exactly as she wanted, frozen in light and shadow, untouched by time. Her tragedy wasn't aging. It was refusing to be seen aging. When perfection becomes identity, authenticity becomes impossible. Marlene Dietrich didn't lose her beauty. She protected it by disappearing. Elizabeth Taylor, when perfection learned to endure. If Hollywood ever came close to creating perfection, it was Elizabeth Taylor. Violet eyes, not a metaphor, not a legend, but a genetic rarity. A face so perfectly structured it seemed immune to bad angles. Even without makeup, even caught off guard, she was devastatingly beautiful. The camera didn't enhance Elizabeth Taylor. It simply confirmed her. From National Velvet to A Place in the Sun, from Cat on a Hot Tin Roof to Cleopatra, she wasn't just admired, she was measured against. Other actresses were beautiful. Elizabeth Taylor was the standard. And that's what made her transformation so shocking. Because unlike so many others, Elizabeth didn't lose her beauty to recklessness or desperation. She lost it to survival. The pain began early. At just 12 years old, she injured her back during National Velvet. What looked like a childhood accident quietly became a lifelong sentence. Chronic pain followed her into adulthood, requiring surgeries, medications, and long periods of immobility. By her 30s, the weight began to come, not from indulgence, but from a body that could no longer move freely. The tabloids noticed immediately. They always do. Headlines shifted from worship to scrutiny. Then came illness. In 1970, Elizabeth nearly died from pneumonia. An emergency tracheotomy saved her life and left a scar across her throat, permanently altering the flawless skin Hollywood once fetishized. It was the first visible reminder that even perfection bleeds. The 1980s brought more battles. Addiction, not born of excess but of pain. Prescription medications. Alcohol. Another fight to stay alive. When she entered rehab, the world watched with a mix of judgment and fascination. Her face changed. Puffiness. Softened lines. The jaw that once cut like glass rounded with time and medication. Fans mourned what they thought was lost. But Elizabeth Taylor never hid. In 1997, a benign brain tumor required surgery. The recovery limited her movement even further. Weight gain followed. By her later years, she barely resembled the Cleopatra of legend, except for the eyes. The violet eyes never dimmed. What separated Elizabeth Taylor from so many others on this list wasn't the transformation, it was her refusal to disappear. She attended events knowing cameras would be cruel. She accepted awards knowing comparisons would be brutal. She showed up anyway. And when AIDS was still whispered about, she stood loudly at the center of it, using the fame that once sold beauty to now demand compassion. Her later beauty wasn't sculpted. It was earned. Elizabeth Taylor didn't age gracefully in the way Hollywood defines grace. She aged honestly. Beauty can be taken by illness, by pain, by survival itself. But dignity is a choice. Elizabeth Taylor lost the face Hollywood loved and gained something stronger, the courage to be seen anyway. Mae West, when defiance became a caricature. Mae West never waited for permission. In an industry that preferred women quiet, compliant, and decorative, Mae was loud, sexual, and unapologetically in control. She didn't just challenge Hollywood's rules, she laughed at them. Her beauty was never about perfection. It was about presence, confidence, a voice that dripped suggestion. Mae West didn't need youth to be desirable, she redefined desire. In the 1930s, when she made her most famous films, Mae was already in her 40s. While other actresses played ingenues, she played women who knew exactly what they wanted and said it out loud. Audiences loved her. Censors hated her. And May enjoyed both. Her image was carefully constructed, but never hidden. Heavy makeup, platinum hair, exaggerated curves. It was performance, not illusion. Because her beauty was stylized, it seemed like she might escape the cruelty of aging better than anyone else. She didn't. May made one fatal decision. She refused to evolve. As decades passed, she presented herself exactly the same. Same wigs, same makeup, same revealing gowns, same innuendo, even as the world around her changed. At first, it felt defiant, a woman refusing to disappear. Then it became uncomfortable. By her 60s and 70s, the contrast between image and reality grew impossible to ignore. Heavy makeup settled into lines. Wigs clashed against aging skin. Corsetry strained to recreate a silhouette that no longer existed. And still, she refused to adjust. When May returned to film in her 70s and 80s, the effect was jarring. The camera no longer flattered her. Close-ups revealed a mask rather than a face. Movements slowed. Lines once playful now felt disconnected from the body delivering them. Critics were merciless. They didn't see courage. They saw parody. A once powerful sex symbol turned into something resembling self-mockery. But that wasn't the full truth. Mae West wasn't clinging to youth. She was clinging to relevance. In an industry that erased older women entirely, her refusal to step aside was a form of rebellion, even if it cost her dignity in the public eye. Her tragedy wasn't that she aged. It was that she had no blueprint for how to age and still exist. Defiance without adaptation becomes distortion. Mae West didn't lose her beauty. She froze it until it no longer resembled her. Jean Seberg, when persecution shattered modern beauty. Jean Seberg looked like the future. While Hollywood still clung to heavy makeup and sculpted glamour, Jean appeared on screen almost untouched. A short haircut, bare skin, a face that didn't demand attention, it invited thought. In Breathless, she became the symbol of something entirely new, modern beauty. Intelligent, effortless, free. She didn't glow like a star. She existed like a real woman. And that made her powerful. Jean's beauty wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Her bone structure, her eyes, her calm presence, they carried a quiet confidence that reshaped fashion and film across Europe. Women copied her hair. Designers copied her style. A generation learned that beauty didn't have to shout. But modernity comes with vulnerability. Jean was sensitive, idealistic. She believed that empathy mattered, that justice mattered. And when she supported civil rights causes in the 1960s, she unknowingly crossed a line that had nothing to do with Hollywood. The FBI noticed. Under J. Edgar Hoover, Jean became a target. Surveillance, harassment, psychological pressure. Then came the lie, a false rumor planted in gossip columns claiming the father of her unborn child was a Black Panther member, not her husband. The stress was unbearable. Jean went into premature labor. Her baby died 2 days later. She held an open casket funeral to expose the truth, a defiant act that revealed not only grief, but courage. But the damage had already been done. Something inside Jean broke. Photos from the early 1970s show it clearly. The beauty remained, but the light behind it dimmed. Her eyes carried fear now. Paranoia. Exhaustion. She began drinking more. Medication followed. Her body bloated. Her skin reddened. The elegant modernity dissolved into visible distress. She aged rapidly, not in years, but in weight, in posture, in presence. Jean began checking for microphones, suspecting surveillance, trusting no one. And she wasn't wrong. By her late 30s, she looked far older than her age. The woman who once embodied hope now embodied persecution. In 1979, Jean Seberg disappeared. Days later, she was found dead in her car in Paris. She was 40. Her beauty remained on film, untouched, preserved. Her real life was dismantled. Jean Seberg didn't lose her beauty to vanity or time. It was destroyed by power, by institutions that couldn't tolerate a woman who thought freely. Hollywood remembers the face. History must remember what broke it. Susan Hayward, when invisible poison stole a face. Susan Hayward was built to survive Hollywood. She wasn't fragile. She wasn't soft. With her fiery red hair, sharp features, and iron will, Susan projected strength in an industry that often rewarded delicacy. She didn't just look powerful, she was. 5 Academy Award nominations. 1 win. A reputation for discipline and resilience. If anyone seemed prepared to age in Hollywood, it was her. And that's what makes her story so cruel. The damage didn't come from addiction, or vanity, or desperation. It came from something she couldn't see. In 1956, Susan traveled to the Utah desert to film The Conqueror. The location looked barren, dramatic, perfect for a historical epic. What no one told the cast was that the area sat downwind from nuclear test sites. Radioactive fallout had settled into the soil, the air, the water. They lived there for months. They breathed it in. They drank it. They carried it home. Howard Hughes even had tons of that desert soil shipped back to Hollywood to recreate the landscape on sound stages, unknowingly bringing radiation directly into the studio. For years, nothing happened. Susan continued working. She aged naturally, gracefully. Her red hair dulled slightly with time, but her presence remained commanding. She was still beautiful, just older, stronger, more grounded. Then, in 1972, the diagnosis came. Brain cancer. It made no sense. No family history. No obvious cause. Only later would patterns emerge. Of the 220 cast and crew of The Conqueror, 91 developed cancer. Many died. John Wayne, Agnes Moorehead, Pedro Armendariz. One by one. Susan's treatment was brutal. Radiation therapy in the early 1970s was unforgiving. Her hair fell out. Wigs replaced what had once been her signature. Her weight dropped dramatically. Her skin turned sallow, stretched thin by illness and treatment. Her face changed fast. Swelling altered her bone structure. Neurological damage affected her expressions. The woman who once commanded the screen now struggled with balance, speech, coordination. She retreated. Mirrors disappeared from her room. Lights were kept low. Scarves covered what she no longer recognized as herself. She allowed very few people to see her, and even fewer to remember her this way. Her final public appearance came at the 1974 Academy Awards. With makeup, lighting, and sheer determination, she stood before the world one last time. The contrast was painful. A legend fighting gravity, disease, and time all at once. Susan Hayward died in 1975 at 57. Her beauty wasn't eroded by choices. It was poisoned years earlier, silently, invisibly. Not all beauty is lost through failure or excess. Sometimes it's stolen by forces no one warns you about. Susan Hayward didn't fade. She was irradiated. Clara Bow, when the IT girl lost the light. Before Hollywood learned how to manufacture stars, there was Clara Bow. She didn't just have it, she defined it. In the 1920s, Clara Bow was electricity. A flapper with a Brooklyn accent, a heart-shaped face, and eyes that danced with mischief and hunger. Her beauty wasn't polished or aristocratic. It was alive, unpredictable, American. She didn't float across the screen, she burst through it. Audiences didn't admire Clara Bow. They recognized themselves in her. At her peak, she was the biggest box office draw in the world. Bigger than Chaplin. Bigger than Fairbanks. She received tens of thousands of fan letters every month. For a moment, Clara Bow wasn't just famous, she was everywhere. But the same openness that made her magnetic made her vulnerable. Clara's childhood had been brutal. Poverty. Violence. A mother struggling with severe mental illness. Fame didn't erase that trauma, it buried it under attention. And attention for Clara was overwhelming. When sound films arrived, the pressure multiplied. Microphones. Precision. Control. The spontaneity that had made her shine now worked against her. Anxiety crept in. Then panic. Insomnia hollowed her face. Nervous habits appeared, biting her nails until they bled. Weight fluctuated wildly. By 26, Clara was unraveling. Her breakdown was public. Unforgiving. Photographed. The industry that had lifted her up had no idea how to protect her or interest in learning. She left Hollywood at 28. It should have been healing. It wasn't. Away from the cameras, Clara let go of the discipline that had once shaped her appearance. Her weight increased. Her iconic flapper image dissolved. Her face, once animated with life, settled into guarded stillness. Worse, her mental health continued to decline. Sanatorium stays followed. Isolation deepened. The light that made her extraordinary dimmed, not gradually, but completely. By her 40s, Clara Bow was unrecognizable. Not just older, emptied. Rare photos show a woman whose famous spark had vanished entirely. Fans who saw her in public refused to believe it was really her. When she died in 1965 at 60, Clara had been invisible for decades. The world kept her image. It lost the woman. Clara Bow didn't lose her beauty to age or excess. She lost the light that made beauty possible. Fame didn't break her. Exposure without protection did. Hollywood promised these women forever. Forever young. Forever beautiful. Forever loved. But forever only lasts as long as the camera keeps rolling. When the lights dimmed, when time, illness, pressure, and silence took over, the world didn't ask how they were surviving. It only asked one question. What happened to her? What happened was that beauty became their value. And when beauty faded, so did compassion. These women weren't just stars. They were warnings. Warnings about an industry that worships perfection and abandons humanity. Their faces are frozen on film, untouched, eternal. But their lives tell the truth no close-up ever could. Because beauty can open every door and still leave you with nowhere to go. If these stories moved you, don't just remember the faces. Remember the cost. And if you want to understand the truth behind Hollywood's glamour, the stories they never wanted told, and the human price of fame, subscribe. Stay with us and watch closely, because the next story might change the way you see beauty forever.